Hey, what's good? So, I just watched The Great White Hope, which is a film loosely loosely based on the life of Jack Johnson. And I wanted to watch this film because it was mentioned in his biography, in the biography of Jack Johnson, Unforgivable Blackness, the rise and fall of Jack Johnson. It was mentioned in that book. This movie, The Great White Hope, was mentioned in it, and it said how this movie came out in 1970, starred Earl Jones, and it said how Muhammad Ali watched it and how he was inspired, and he's like, yeah, this life is my life. Just take away the white woman and put my religion in it, and it's exactly like my life. So, a film that inspired Muhammad Ali and made Muhammad Ali, think of himself, and I was like, okay, I want to watch this movie, especially since it's based on one of my new favorite fighters in Jack Johnson. If you haven't watched my review, go ahead and watch it. The Unforgivable Blackness. Okay, I'm gonna go flat out and say that I wasn't a huge fan of this book. I mean, of this movie. I know, like Muhammad Ali said that it was great and it was based on his life, but I just don't think that it did Jack Johnson justice. I just don't think it did. It made him his life. I don't think it was true to his life, and I know it wasn't uh, uh an exact autobiography, like a movie on his life. Like James Earl Jones was named Jack Jefferson. Like he wasn't Jack Johnson, but it's pretty commonly known that this movie is based on Jack Johnson. It started when he was gonna get the title shot, and it started like when he was gonna fight James Jeffries, but the guy name was Frank Brady. So this guy came out of retirement. He came and fought. So that's a problem I have already with the movie, that it started already late in Jack Johnson's life, late in his career, until he got that title shot. And that also wasn't his first title shot. He was actually the champion. So that's kind of the gripe I have with that movie. Plus, they didn't even show the fight. Like, they didn't even put the fight in the movie where he beat Jeffries. They just put him celebrating in his home in Chicago. He did go to Chicago. They put him celebrating in Chicago. I did like how they showed that he was extravagant and very popular and would always smile at the beginning. But kind of it, like you go, it was like 40 minutes in the scene, and there wasn't a single fight scene. There was two fights in this movie, two fight scenes. One where he fought some guy in France when he had already fled, and he was just knocking him out. He knocked him out, and then his white wife, of course, his wife came out, and he was just looking at her, like glaring at her, like, I did not want you to see this, wife. And then the second fight that this movie showed was when he fought Jess Willard, and he wasn't named Jess Willard, of course, but it's based on him. So one fight he won, but it wasn't a very significant. I think it was a fight against Frank Moran that he fought in France. So I think it was that one. I don't think he knocked that guy out, actually. So it must have been another fight that it was based on. And the last fight scene was Jess Willard, where he lost, where it it, it it was suggested that he threw the fight, which it was believed, it was rumored that he threw the fight, and this fight was in 1970. So I think that's why they wanted to go there, but it just really didn't have that much boxing. For a movie called The Great White Hope, we gotta understand what the Great White Hope meant at the time. The Great White Hope was them trying to find a white man to beat Jack Johnson. That was the whole point of the Great White Hope. And instead, they went the route where he was hanging out with his wife and going to cabins with her and going to the park, and then he got arrested, and then trying to negotiate with lawyers, his wife went to an attorney's office, and it was a funny scene where she's like, "Look at me, you know, penis mother futter," or something like that. That part was funny. And James Earl Jones was like a very strong character, but I I mean he did do justice, but what the movie was based on did not do, like, he would have done his life justice if they had made the scenes for it. There was just not enough boxing in this fight for a movie called The Great White Hope. Like, it didn't show promoters trying to find the white fighters building up. Like, there was tournaments at that time that they were held tournament. They actually had a white heavyweight champion of the world, believe it or not. They had a white heavyweight champion. That guy would fight Jack Johnson. Like, they showed none of that. And with this movie, what I thought it would be, The Great White Hope, because it's called that. I know I'm repeating myself, but I need to emphasize this, and I want to know that I'm getting my point across. You would think that it would show that it would show more of his fights, that it would show more of the people heckling him, but it really didn't. Like, it just seemed really slow paced and kind of I don't know what's the word, but not much action, not much stuff happening. I did like the part where it was very accurate, was when the Blue Jays came into his apartment, and there was one guy that really looked like him, which the guy kind of didn't look like him, but then he's like, you know what they say, all black people look the same, and then they started laughing. So then he dressed like one of the Blue Jays, and they left. That was historically accurate. But then I think he left with to Mexico, where he was gonna fight, but his wife commit suicide. But that's inaccurate as well. His wife commit suicide when they were already in Chicago. She shot herself in the head, and then he got another wife, and that's the wife that moved with them throughout all the world, throughout Europe, throughout Cuba and Mexico. That's the wife that went to Mexico, and she didn't kill herself. She actually divorced Jack Johnson into it when he came back. When he came back, served his time, got out, she divorced him. So they were together for like 12 years. And he's like, man, after 12 years, she divorced me. That's kind of messed up. But that's when she divorced him. So that's inaccurate. So, as an autobiography, it's really not accurate. It's not totally accurate. And you don't expect that from a movie, but it doesn't do his life justice. There's not enough boxing. It's dramatic. Like, for a movie, it's good. For a movie, it's good and it's entertaining. For a boxing movie, honestly, there's not enough boxing in it to be a boxing movie. So there's plenty of boxing movies that are better than this. I think The Fighter is better than this. That's a good movie based on Mickey Ward. And Mickey Ward's nowhere near as a great fighter as, oh, I'm not even put him in the same sentence. That's how much greater this guy is. This guy based on the movie. Period. Jack Johnson. Excuse me. But yeah, as a movie, it's good. If I don't even think it served like as a time period thing. Like, you see the racial tension in the air. You kind of do in the beginning when he's gonna fight Frank Brady, Jack Jeffries wannabe. When he's gonna fight him, you see all the hatred and he's just smiling and the weigh-in and all that. You see like the people and the heckling, but after that you really don't see racial tension, and so it really doesn't work for a sign of the times. And it's kind of it's pretty short too, because after he beat Jeffries, he still had other fights. I'm talking about his real life, in the autobiography. But yeah, this movie didn't do it to me. If you want to see a decent old boxing flick, you know, I would recommend this, but I'd give this like a B minus. Yeah, it wasn't very good. It was all right. It was okay. It was okay. I give it a B minus. I wouldn't watch it again, I'll tell you that, unless I was showing someone else this. But I would rather watch the documentary Unforgivable Blackness that actually has fight scenes and goes throughout his life. So as a way to know more about Jack Johnson, I wouldn't recommend this. But if you just want to know a little bit about Jack Johnson, Sure, if you know nothing about Jack Johnson, go through this. Yeah, he got white women. He was a good fighter. He was hated by whites. So if you need to know the basics, I think I could tell you. So I could tell you all this movie. Like I could tell you in one conversation, like 5 minutes. It's very good. He Jeffries came back. He kicked his ass. Then the Mann Act, which the Mann Act just came up out of nowhere. They didn't explain what it really was. I think he gave like one sentence. I forgot what he even said. Like, oh, that's for commercial or something. But they didn't even say, like, they didn't even go through the trial scenes or stuff like that. So yeah, it was very hurried. That's the word. It was very hurried to try to cram even his title reign in an hour and 45 minutes. It was just too much. It was too big of a feat. So I know Muhammad Ali pictured himself in that, and I could see that. I could see where he could see that he was persecuted. Yeah, persecuted. I could see where he saw himself because Jack Johnson or Jack Jefferson was persecuted throughout this film, but they could have went a lot more in depth, even within the time frame that they had. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. What did you think about this movie if you saw it? And yeah, please remember pay tribute to these great fighters from the past. And shout outs to RFM Network if you're still watching this. Shout outs. And I want to say thanks for suggesting that tribute to Jack Johnson album by Miles Davis. Man, that's fire, man. I'm a fan of that type of music. I'm a fan of jazz from that era, but I don't really hear it much. I just don't. But I really like that music as well. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching once again, and don't forget to subscribe. Peace. Sorry. Any more suggestions of any like books or films from the time, or even um from like the 40s and the 50s to learn more about the rich history of the sport? I know Kyle or Chael, I think it's Kyle L suggested Sweet Thunder, so I'm gonna pick that up, brother. But anybody else have any suggestions of any books to read or movies to watch from that time, Jack Johnson's time or Sugar Ray Robinson's time? Please comment your thoughts. I love the feedback. Anyway, for real now, thanks for watching. Subscribe. Peace.